The billboard lights hit my face at exactly 8 p.m. Every screen in Newport showed the same thing, my smile. Bigger than life. With words that made the whole city stop and stare. But 2 weeks ago, I was nothing. Just another disappointment in the Hall family mansion. Dear viewers, before I dive into this story, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? I'd love to know how far these videos are traveling, and are you enjoying it so far? You're a disgrace to this family name. My cousin Brielle's voice cut through the dining room like a knife. The crystal glasses shook on the table. Everyone went quiet. Even the servants stopped moving. I stood there in my simple dress, holding the letter that changed everything. My job rejection, the third one this month. Look at her, Brielle laughed, her perfect nails tapping the mahogany table. Aurora can't even get a basic marketing job, what a joke. My mother, Margot, sipped her wine. She didn't look at me. She never did anymore. My father, Gregory, cleared his throat. Perhaps it's time Aurora considered different options. Different options like giving up, like admitting I was everything they said I was. She's trying her best, Julian whispered. My little brother was only 16, but he had more courage than anyone in this room. Her best isn't good enough, my sister Olivia snapped. I got promoted to senior manager last week. Derek just closed a $1 million deal. What has Aurora done? The table went silent again, all eyes on me, waiting. I felt small, tiny, like I could disappear and no one would notice. But then Brielle stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. She walked toward me, her high heels clicking like a countdown. Don't show your face here again, she said, her voice cold as winter. This family doesn't claim losers. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I waited for someone to defend me, to say something, anything. My mother studied her fingernails. My father checked his watch. Olivia and Derek nodded like Brielle was speaking gospel truth. Only Julian looked up at me. His eyes were sad but strong. Aurora, you're not weak, he whispered. You're just different. Different isn't bad. But his words felt tiny in that huge, cold room. I ran upstairs to my room. The walls felt like they were closing in, 25 years old, and still living in my childhood bedroom. Still trying to prove I belonged in a family that didn't want me. I grabbed my laptop and started typing. A resignation letter from my life. From trying, from hoping things would change. Then I stopped. Julian's words echoed in my head. You're not weak, you're just different. I deleted the letter. Instead, I opened a new document. I started writing about something else. About all the people like me, the ones who felt invisible. The ones who were told they weren't enough. My phone buzzed, a text from Julian. Meet me in the garden. I have an idea. I found him by the rose bush, holding a newspaper. Look at this, he said, pointing to a small article. City launching campaign for young entrepreneurs. Looking for fresh ideas to inspire the community. My heart started beating faster. Julian, I'm not an entrepreneur. I can't even get hired anywhere. That's exactly why you should do this, he said. You know what it feels like to be rejected, to be told you're not good enough. Other people feel that too. He was right. I did know that feeling. I lived with it every day. What would I even propose? I asked. Julian smiled. A campaign about resilience, about people who got knocked down but got back up. Real stories from real people. Something sparked inside me. For the first time in months, I felt alive. I spent the next week in secret. Every day, I left the house early and came back late. My family thought I was job hunting. They were half right. I was hunting for something bigger. I interviewed people all over Newport. The waitress who worked 3 jobs to support her kids. The mechanic who built his shop from nothing. The teacher who started a free tutoring program in her spare time. Everyone had a story. Everyone had been told no before they heard yes. I called my proposal Invisible Strength, a campaign to show that the people society overlooks are often the strongest of all. The night before the deadline, I worked until 3 a.m. Julian brought me coffee and encouragement. You're going to change everything, he said. What if they reject me too? I whispered. Then we'll try somewhere else. But Aurora, I believe in you. I always have. I submitted my proposal at 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before deadline. Then I waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. Miss Hale? This is Rebecca Collins from the Newport City Council. My heart stopped. We'd like to meet with you about your proposal. Can you come in tomorrow? I could barely speak. Yes, I'll be there. That night at dinner, I almost told them, almost shared my hope, but Brielle was visiting again, and she was in her usual form. Any luck with the job hunt, Aurora? She asked with fake sweetness. Still looking, I said quietly. Such a shame, Aunt Veronica chimed in. A girl your age should be established by now. Uncle Charles nodded. In my day, should be established by now. A girl your age should be established by now. Uncle Charles nodded. In my day, Shodiels nodded. In my day, people didn't take so long to figure things out. I excused myself early. Julian followed me. Tomorrow's the meeting, isn't it? He asked. Yes, Julian, what if? No what ifs, he interrupted. You're going to walk in there and show them who Aurora Hale really is. The city council room was intimidating. 5 people sat behind a curved desk, looking down at me. I stood at the podium with my presentation, my hands shaking. Miss Hale, Rebecca Collins said, tell us about invisible strength. I took a deep breath and began. Every day we walk past people who are fighting battles we can't see. People who've been told they're not smart enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. But these same people are the backbone of our community. I clicked to my first slide. A photo of Maria, the waitress with 3 jobs. This is Maria. She works 60 hours a week to send her daughter to college. She's been rejected for better jobs because she doesn't have a degree. But she's teaching her daughter that education matters. Click next slide. This is James. He started his auto shop with $100 and a dream. Banks said no, investors said no, but his customers say yes every day. I went through story after story. Real people, real struggles, real victories. Invisible strength isn't just a campaign, I continued. It's a movement. We'll put these stories on billboards, in newspapers, on social media. We'll show the world that being underestimated is not the same as being defeated. When I finished, the room was silent. Then Rebecca Collins smiled. Miss Hale, when can you start? I got the contract, $50,000 to launch the campaign. But more than that, I got a chance to prove myself. I didn't tell my family, not yet. For 2 weeks, I worked like I'd never worked before. I hired photographers, writers, designers. We created 20 billboards featuring 20 different stories. The plan was simple but powerful. Every billboard would go live at the same time, 8 p.m. on Friday night, when the whole city would see them. Julian helped me coordinate everything. He was my secret partner, my biggest supporter. Are you nervous? He asked the night before launch. Terrified, I admitted. Good, he said. That means it matters. Friday came fast. At 7:55 p.m., I stood in the town square with Julian. My heart was pounding. People were everywhere. Friday night in Newport meant crowds, restaurants, nightlife. At exactly 8 p.m., the first billboard lit up. It was Maria's story, her face glowing against the night sky. The words read, I work 3 jobs because my daughter's dreams are worth it. That's invisible strength. Then another billboard flickered to life, then another all around the city. Screens lit up with faces and stories, real people, real strength. But the biggest billboard, the one in the center of town, the one everyone could see, that one was different. At 8:05 p.m., it lit up with my face. Not a glamour shot. Not a perfect photo, just me, smiling, with words that made my chest tight with emotion. I was told I wasn't good enough. I was told not to show my face, but I learned that being overlooked doesn't mean being worthless. This campaign exists because someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Invisible strength starts with refusing to be invisible. Aurora Hale, campaign creator. The crowd in the square stopped moving. People pointed, whispered, then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Within minutes, the entire square was applauding. Strangers were hugging. People were crying. Julian squeezed my hand. You did it, he whispered. But the best part was yet to come. My phone started ringing at 8:30 p.m. Text messages flooded in. Social media exploded. By Saturday morning, the Invisible Strength campaign was trending nationwide. News stations wanted interviews, celebrities were sharing the stories. And then came the call I'd been waiting for. Aurora. My mother's voice was different, uncertain. We need to talk family dinner tonight, 7 o'clock. I'll be there, I said. That evening, I walked into the dining room wearing the same simple dress I'd worn 2 weeks ago, but everything else had changed. The whole family was there. Parents, siblings, Brielle, aunt and uncle. They all stared at me like they were seeing a stranger. Gregory cleared his throat. Aurora, we saw the campaign. The whole city's talking about it, Margot added quietly. Brielle sat in the corner, not looking at anyone. For the first time in her life, she was speechless. Is it true? Olivia asked. Did you really create all of this? I sat down in my usual chair, but I felt different in it now. Yes, I said simply. I did. Derek shook his head. How? I mean, how did you? We didn't even know you were working on anything. You didn't ask. I replied, no anger in my voice, just truth. The silence stretched out like a held breath. Then Uncle Charles spoke up. Aurora, this is impressive work. The city council chose well. Aunt Veronica nodded. Very professional campaign. Very impactful. They were trying to be proud of me now that the whole world was watching. But it felt hollow, like praise that came too late. Brielle finally looked up. Her perfect mask was cracking. Aurora, about what I said last time. You told me not to show my face here again, I said calmly. You said this family doesn't claim losers. She winced. I was wrong. I was angry about other things. I took it out on you. And you all agreed with her, I continued. Looking around the table, not one of you stood up for me. Except Julian. My little brother smiled at me from across the table. Aurora, my father said. We made mistakes. We didn't understand what you were capable of. You didn't try to understand. I corrected him. You decided who I was without asking who I wanted to be. Margot reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand, but stopped halfway. We're proud of you now, she said softly. Are you? I asked. Or are you proud of what other people think of me? She couldn't answer that. 2 weeks ago I was a disgrace, I continued. Nothing changed about me except other people's opinions. I'm the same person who applied for those jobs, the same person who had ideas you never wanted to hear. Aurora, Gregory said, what can we do to make this right? I looked around the table at faces that suddenly wanted to please me. Faces that had dismissed me for 25 years, but now saw value because the world did. Nothing, I said. You can't make this right, but you can do better going forward. I stood up from my chair. Julian, would you like to come with me? There's someone I want you to meet. Who? He asked, getting up to follow me. Maria, the waitress from my campaign. She wants to thank the person who believed in me when no one else would. Julian's face lit up. Really? Really, she said, any family member who supported me deserves to meet the people who inspired this whole thing. As we walked toward the door, Brielle called out, Aurora, wait. I turned back. The campaign, she said hesitantly. The billboard with your face. What you said about someone believing in you. You meant Julian, didn't you? Yes, I said. He was the only one. Brielle looked down at her hands. I'm sorry, I'm really truly sorry. I believe you, I said. I believe you, I said. I'm sorry, I'm really, truly sorry. I believe you, I said. I believe you. But sorry doesn't undo 25 years. What does? She asked. I thought about that for a moment. Time, I said finally. And proof that you mean it. As Julian and I left the house, he was quiet for a while. Aurora, he said finally. Are you angry at them? I was, I admitted, but anger takes too much energy. I'd rather use that energy for good things. Like helping people who feel invisible? Exactly like that. We walked down the street, past the mansion I'd grown up in, toward the coffee shop where Maria worked her evening shift. Julian, I said, can I tell you something? Always. 2 weeks ago, When Brielle told me not to show my face again, I wanted to disappear forever. But you reminded me that being different isn't being wrong. You remembered that all by yourself, he said. I just said it out loud. Sometimes that's all someone needs. Someone to say out loud what they already know inside. When we reached the coffee shop, I could see Maria through the window. She was serving a customer, smiling even though she looked tired. She's going to love meeting you, I told Julian. Why? Because you're proof that families can have heroes too, even if they're the youngest ones. Julian blushed. I'm not a hero. You saved me when I couldn't save myself. If that's not heroic, what is? 3 months later, Invisible Strength had become a national campaign. Cities across the country were featuring their own local heroes on billboards. I'd moved out of my parents' house and into a small apartment downtown. Julian visited every weekend. The family dinners were different now, awkward but trying. Gregory actually asked about my work. Margot shared articles about the campaign with her friends. Olivia and Derek were polite, respectful. Brielle was trying hardest of all. She'd started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping residents write resumes and practice interviews. I want to understand what it feels like, she told me one day, to be dismissed because of how you look or where you come from. Why? I asked. Because I did that to you for years. If I'm going to apologize properly, I need to understand what I was apologizing for. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. The real change was in me. I walked differently now, spoke up in meetings, took up space without apologizing for it. Julian noticed first. You stand taller now, he said during one of our weekend walks. Do I? Yeah, like you know you belong wherever you are. He was right. I did know that now. 1 year after that terrible family dinner, Newport held its annual charity gala. The theme was Community Heroes, inspired by the Invisible Strength campaign. I was the keynote speaker. As I stood at the podium looking out at the crowd, I saw my whole family in the front row, all of them, even Brielle, who had driven up from New York just to be there. But my eyes found Julian first. He was beaming at me with the same confidence he'd shown that night in the garden when he told me about the city campaign. A year ago, I began, someone in this room told me not to show my face again. They said this family doesn't claim losers. The room was dead silent. Tonight, I want to talk about what it means to lose, and what it means to win. I clicked to my first slide. It was the photo from that first billboard, my face, honest and unafraid. I thought losing meant being rejected, being dismissed, being told I wasn't enough. But I learned something different. Losing is when you let other people's opinions become your truth. Winning is when you decide your worth for yourself. I looked directly at my family. Some of you hurt me. Some of you ignored me. Some of you made me feel invisible. But one of you saw me when I couldn't see myself. One of you believed in me when I didn't believe in me. Julian, stand up. My brother looked embarrassed, but got to his feet. The room erupted in applause. Julian reminded me that being different isn't being wrong. That being underestimated isn't the same as being worthless. That sometimes the youngest voice in the room carries the most wisdom. The applause continued as Julian sat back down. His cheeks red but his smile huge. To everyone who feels invisible tonight, I continued, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by who sees you. It's determined by what you choose to do with the strength you carry inside. The campaign that started in this city has now reached millions of people. But it began with one person believing in one other person. It began with love that didn't require permission or approval. I looked out at the crowd, at Maria, who was now the manager of her restaurant, at James, whose auto shop had expanded to 3 locations, at dozens of other people whose stories had been featured in the campaign. Behind them, I noticed reporters from 3 major news networks. The story of Invisible Strength had caught national attention. CNN wanted to do a documentary. Forbes had called about a cover story. But the moment that mattered most was happening right in front of me. In the second row, I saw Mrs. Henderson, my high school guidance counselor. She told me I wasn't college material. Tonight, she was crying as she listened to my speech. After this campaign launched, I continued. Something beautiful happened. People started seeing strength where they'd only seen struggle before. Employers started hiring candidates they'd previously overlooked. Schools started celebrating different kinds of success. I paused, letting the weight of that sink in. Change doesn't happen because one person gets revenge. Change happens when one person decides to build something better than what broke them. The crowd was on their feet now. Standing ovation that lasted 3 full minutes. As the applause died down, I had one more thing to say. Don't show your face here again. I smiled, looking directly at Brielle. I'd rather light up the whole city. After the speech, the reception was overwhelming. People lined up to meet me, to share their own stories, to ask about expanding the campaign to their cities. But the conversation that mattered most happened in a quiet corner with Julian. Aurora, he said, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found that newspaper article? Every day, I admitted. But you know what I realized? You didn't save me that night. You reminded me I could save myself. What's the difference? The difference is that my strength was always there. I just needed someone to help me see it. Julian smiled. So what's next? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. 17 missed calls from various TV producers, publishers, and foundation directors. Next, we help 1 million more people see their own strength. My family relationships were still complicated, but they were honest now. Real in a way they'd never been before. Brielle had become my fiercest ally. She ran the East Coast operations of the foundation and was fierce about protecting people who reminded her of who I used to be. I can't undo what I said to you, she told me once, but I can make sure no one else feels what I made you feel. The transformation in her was remarkable. She'd left her high-paying marketing job to work full-time for the foundation. Her apartment was smaller now, her wardrobe simpler, but her smile was genuine in a way it had never been before. I spent so many years trying to look successful, she explained during one of our monthly dinner meetings. Now I want to actually be useful. My parents were proud of me now, genuinely proud, but more importantly, they were learning to be proud of Julian for who he was, not just what he achieved. Gregory had started asking Julian about his social work studies with the same intensity he once reserved for Marcus's business deals. Margot had joined the foundation's board of directors, using her social connections to open doors that had once been closed to people like me. I realize now, she told me during a quiet moment at last year's gala, that I spent so many years worried about what other people thought of our family. I forgot to think about what we thought of each other. Marcus and Jennifer had moved to London for his work, but they visited twice a year. Our relationship was polite, cordial, but distant. Some bridges, once burned, take longer to rebuild than others. Derek had surprised everyone by starting a nonprofit that provided business mentorship to young entrepreneurs from underserved communities. Aurora's campaign made me realize I'd been given every advantage, he said. Maybe it's time I helped people who weren't as lucky. On the anniversary of that first billboard lighting, I stood in the town square again. This time I wasn't nervous, I wasn't hiding. I was exactly where I belonged. The square was packed with people celebrating the 2nd annual Invisible Strength Day. Local businesses offered free services. Schools showcased student projects about resilience. The coffee shop where Maria once worked 3 jobs now employed 12 people full-time with benefits. My phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Looking at that first billboard photo of you still gives me chills. You changed everything. Aurora. I typed back. We changed everything. Together. A reporter from the local news station approached me. Miss Halley, any final thoughts on the impact of invisible strength? I looked around at the celebration, at faces that glowed with pride and possibility. 2 years ago, someone told me I was an embarrassment. I said, tonight, this whole city is celebrating the idea that being different is actually a gift. That's not revenge. That's transformation. Because that's what I'd learned in the end. The strongest people aren't the ones who never fall down. They're the ones who fall down and get back up. They're the ones who lift others up while they're still climbing themselves. They're the ones who refuse to be invisible, even when the whole world tries to make them disappear. And sometimes, if they're very lucky, they're the ones who get to light up the whole city with the truth of who they really are. The billboard above me flickered in the evening light. My face, older now but still smiling, still proud, still here. The words beneath it had changed over the years. But the message stayed the same. Your strength was never invisible. You just needed the right light to see it. Aurora Hale, Invisible Strength Foundation. I walked home through streets lined with stories of resilience. Past faces that reminded the world every night that being overlooked doesn't mean being worthless. And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly where I belonged. Right here, right now. Exactly as I was taught, but now I want to hear from you. Has anyone ever tried to degrade you the way they did to me? And if yes, how did you take your revenge? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to read them.